I was standing in front of the mirror in my wedding dress, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. The silk fabric hugged my curves perfectly, and the delicate lace reminded me of my grandmother's vintage dress. In just 2 months, I would be walking down the aisle to marry James, the man of my dreams. Everything was perfect until my phone rang. Madison's voice sounded strange, almost sinister. Lucy, Dad, and Mom know everything. They know what your real job is. My heart dropped. What was she talking about? Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Trust me, you will not believe how twisted this gets. My name is Lucy, and this story begins when I was 12 years old. That was when my dad, Tom, remarried Patricia, a woman with a 15-year-old daughter named Madison. At first, I thought having an older sister would be amazing. Madison seemed friendly enough during the wedding, even helping me with my hair and telling me we would be the best of friends forever. Those early days felt like a fairy tale I had always dreamed of. Our blended family lived in a beautiful colonial house in suburban Ohio. Dad worked as a bank manager, and Patricia was a nurse at the local hospital. Madison was the perfect student, always getting straight A's, and involved in every extracurricular activity you could imagine. I tried my best to fit in, joining the same clubs Madison was in and copying her study habits. Dad seemed genuinely happy for the first time since my mom had passed away when I was 8 years old. But slowly, things started to change. Madison began acting differently whenever Dad showed me affection or praised my achievements. If I got a good grade on a test, Madison would suddenly remember she had gotten a better score on a harder exam. When Dad complimented my artwork, Madison would conveniently display her own projects in prominent places around the house. At first, I thought she was just being competitive, which seemed normal for siblings. The subtle competition turned into something more sinister as we grew older. Madison started undermining me in small ways that were hard to prove. She would borrow my homework and forget to return it before class, causing me to get zeros for missing assignments. She would tell Patricia that I had said mean things about her cooking or cleaning, which was never true. Patricia, naturally protective of her biological daughter, always believed Madison's version of events. When I entered high school, the tension escalated dramatically. Madison was a senior while I was a freshman, and she used her social status to make my life miserable. She would spread rumors about me to her friends, who then passed them down to younger students. She told people I was adopted because Dad felt sorry for me, which was not true, but humiliating nonetheless. Patricia never disciplined Madison for these behaviors, always making excuses about teenage stress and adjustment periods. Despite the family drama, I managed to excel academically and socially. I made genuine friends who appreciated my kind nature and sense of humor. This only seemed to make Madison angrier. She could not understand why people gravitated toward me when she worked so hard to be perfect. During family dinners, she would make snide comments about my appearance or mock my interests in front of everyone. Dad would sometimes tell her to be nicer, but Patricia would immediately defend her daughter's behavior as harmless sibling teasing. College became my escape from the toxic family dynamics. I earned a scholarship to study marketing at Ohio State University, and for 4 years I could be myself without Madison's constant interference. I thrived in my studies, made lifelong friendships, and discovered my passion for creative advertising campaigns. Madison went to a local community college and continued living at home, which seemed to increase her resentment toward my independence and success. After graduation, I landed an excellent position at a prestigious marketing firm in Columbus. The work was challenging and rewarding, and I quickly earned promotions and bonuses for my innovative campaigns. This is where I met James through my colleague Sarah, who had invited both of us to her birthday party 3 years ago. James was a software engineer with a kind heart and infectious laugh. We connected immediately over our shared love of hiking and old movies. Our relationship progressed naturally and beautifully. James was everything I had hoped for in a partner, supportive, intelligent, funny, and genuinely interested in my dreams and ambitions. His family welcomed me warmly, treating me like the daughter they never had. After 2 years of dating, James proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. We loved exploring together. The proposal was simple but perfect, just like our entire relationship had been. When I announced our engagement, Dad and Patricia seemed genuinely happy for us. Even Madison appeared excited, offering to help with wedding planning and gushing about how romantic the proposal sounded. For a brief moment, I thought maybe we had finally outgrown our childhood conflicts and could be real sisters. I was foolish to believe that Madison had changed her fundamental nature. The wedding planning process went smoothly for the first few months. James and I chose a beautiful venue, selected our favorite flowers, and sent out save-the-date cards to family and friends. Madison volunteered to be a bridesmaid, and I accepted her offer despite my reservations. Patricia helped with some of the smaller details, and Dad offered to pay for the catering as his wedding gift to us. Everything seemed to be falling into place perfectly. But then came that phone call that changed everything. Madison's voice had an edge I had never heard before, a mixture of satisfaction and malice that made my blood run cold. She spoke as if she knew a devastating secret, something that would destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. The way she said, "your real job," made it sound like I was living some kind of double life, which was absolutely ridiculous since my career in marketing was completely legitimate and successful. I drove to Dad and Patricia's house immediately that night, my heart pounding with anxiety and confusion. The house looked exactly the same as always, but something felt different as I approached the front door. The porch light cast eerie shadows, and I noticed that the curtains in the living room were drawn tightly shut, which was unusual for my family. When I knocked, Patricia answered with a cold expression I had never seen before. "We need to talk," she said without any greeting, stepping aside to let me enter. Dad was sitting in his favorite armchair, but he would not look at me directly. His usually warm demeanor had been replaced by disappointment and shame. Patricia gestured for me to sit on the couch across from them, creating a physical distance that felt like an interrogation setup. "We know about your real job, Lucy," Patricia began, her voice steady, but filled with disgust. "Madison told us everything about what you have been doing to make money. We cannot believe you would deceive us like this, especially when you are about to marry James. Does he know what kind of woman he is marrying?" I stared at them in complete bewilderment, unable to process what Patricia was suggesting. "What are you talking about? I work in marketing. You know that. You have visited my office. You have met my colleagues. What could Madison possibly have told you that would make you think otherwise?" Dad finally spoke, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Madison showed us the pictures, Lucy. She showed us the text messages and the hotel receipts. How could you do this to our family? How could you throw away everything we taught you about self-respect and dignity?" My mind raced as I tried to understand what pictures and messages they could be referring to. The only hotel receipts I had were from business trips and client meetings, all completely professional and documented by my company. "Dad, I think there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Whatever Madison showed you, it cannot be what you think it is. I would never do anything to bring shame on our family." Patricia pulled out her phone and showed me several photographs that made my stomach drop. They were images of me entering and leaving various hotels, but they had been edited to make it look like I was dressed provocatively and meeting men for inappropriate purposes. The timestamps and locations were accurate, but the context was completely fabricated. These were from my business trips to Cleveland and Cincinnati for client presentations. Madison has video evidence too. Patricia continued scrolling through more fabricated content. She showed us text messages where you are negotiating prices and services. She explained how you have been using your marketing job as a cover for prostitution. The money you make is far too much for a normal marketing position. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Everything Patricia described was a twisted version of my legitimate business activities. The price negotiations were probably my discussions with vendors about advertising costs. The hotels were where I stayed during company-sponsored trips. My salary was competitive because I was good at my job and had earned multiple promotions and performance bonuses. "This is insane," I said, my voice rising with frustration. "Those pictures are taken out of context. Those hotels are where I stay for business trips. My company books those rooms. You can call my boss and verify everything. Madison is lying to you, and I cannot understand why she would do something so cruel." But they were not listening to reason. Patricia had already made up her mind, and Dad seemed convinced by whatever evidence Madison had presented. The fact that they would believe such outrageous accusations without even giving me a chance to explain showed how much Madison had poisoned their minds against me over the years. Just then, Madison appeared at the top of the staircase, slowly descending with a smug expression that revealed her true intentions. She was wearing pajamas and acting like she had just woken up, but I could see the satisfaction in her eyes. This confrontation had been carefully planned and orchestrated to cause maximum damage to my reputation and relationships. "I am sorry you had to find out this way," Madison said, with fake sympathy. "But I could not let you marry James without him knowing the truth about who he is marrying. I have been worried about you for months, Lucy. The late nights, the expensive clothes, the mysterious business trips. I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt, but the evidence was too overwhelming to ignore." She sat down next to Patricia and pulled out a tablet showing additional evidence that looked convincing, but was completely fabricated. There were doctored text message conversations, manipulated bank statements, showing large cash deposits, and even fake social media profiles that supposedly belonged to my clients. Madison had clearly spent considerable time and money creating this elaborate deception. "I know this is hard to hear," Madison continued, "but I care about our family too much to let this continue. James deserves to know what kind of woman he is about to marry. His family would be devastated if they found out after the wedding." The cruelest part was how Madison presented herself as the concerned sister looking out for everyone's best interests. She spoke with such conviction that even I almost questioned my own reality. But I knew the truth about my life, my career, and my character. This was an elaborate attempt to destroy my happiness because Madison could not stand seeing me successful and loved. "Get out," Patricia said firmly. "We cannot have someone like you living under our roof or associating with our family. You have brought shame on all of us, and we will not tolerate this behavior any longer. Leave immediately and do not come back until you are ready to tell us the truth about your life." Dad still could not look at me as I gathered my things and headed toward the door. 25 years of being his daughter seemed to mean nothing compared to Madison's lies. As I reached for the door handle, I heard Madison call out one final threat that confirmed this was all about destroying my relationship with James. "Lucy, I think James should know about this before you trick him into marriage. It would not be fair to let him make such an important decision based on lies. I drove home in a state of complete shock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely steer the car. When I walked through the front door, James immediately knew something terrible had happened. He wrapped me in his arms as I collapsed into tears, trying to explain the unbelievable accusations my family had just made against me. James listened patiently, his face growing more concerned with each detail I shared. "Lucy, this is obviously some kind of misunderstanding or manipulation," James said, stroking my hair gently. "I know who you are. I have seen your work, met your colleagues, and witnessed your integrity every day for 3 years. Whatever Madison is trying to do, we will figure it out together." But Madison was not finished with her campaign of destruction. Within hours of my confrontation with Dad and Patricia, James received a phone call from Madison. She spoke to him for over an hour, sending him copies of all the fabricated evidence she had shown my parents. Even though James trusted me completely, seeing professionally edited photos and documents was disturbing and confusing. The next morning, James's mother called with questions about the concerning information someone had shared about me. Madison had somehow obtained Mrs. Wilson's phone number and sent her selected pieces of the fake evidence. James's parents were traditional people who valued reputation and social standing, so even unproven accusations were enough to make them worry about their son's choice in marriage. "James, we are not saying we believe these accusations," his father said during a tense family meeting, "but we think you should postpone the wedding until this situation is resolved. If Lucy is innocent, surely she can prove it. If she cannot, then you need to protect yourself and our family's reputation." The stress was overwhelming. I had lost my family's trust and support, and now my future in-laws were questioning my character based on Madison's lies. The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but instead, it had become a source of anxiety and doubt for everyone involved except Madison, who was probably celebrating her successful sabotage. My best friend Sarah refused to believe any of the accusations and immediately offered to help me investigate how Madison had created such convincing fake evidence. Sarah worked in digital forensics for a cybersecurity company, so she had the technical skills needed to trace the origins of doctored photos and fabricated documents. "Lucy, these images have been professionally manipulated," Sarah explained after examining the evidence on her computer. "Look at these shadow inconsistencies and lighting variations. Someone paid good money to make these photos look real. The metadata has been altered too, which requires specialized software and expertise." We spent the next week digging deeper into Madison's activities, checking her financial records and social media history for clues about her conspiracy against me. Sarah discovered that Madison had recently made several large withdrawals from her savings account and had contacted professional photo editing services through online freelance platforms. The breakthrough came when Sarah found deleted text messages on a backup of Madison's phone that she had carelessly synchronized with a family computer. The messages revealed Madison's true motivations and detailed planning process. She had been jealous of my relationship with James ever since we announced our engagement, particularly because James came from a wealthy family and could provide the lifestyle she wanted for herself. "I cannot stand watching Lucy get everything handed to her," Madison had written to her boyfriend Derek. "She gets Dad's love, a successful career, and now a rich husband, while I am still living at home with nothing to show for my life. If I cannot be happy, why should she get to be?" Derek had encouraged Madison's destructive behavior and even helped her research ways to create convincing fake evidence. Their text conversations revealed the entire timeline of the plot from initial planning through execution. Madison had spent months studying my business travel schedule and photographing me, entering hotels, then hiring professionals to alter the images and fabricate supporting documents. The most damaging revelation was Madison's explicit intention to destroy my relationship with James by any means necessary. She had researched his family's conservative values and crafted her lies specifically to target their concerns about reputation and social standing. Madison believed that if she could break up my engagement, James might eventually become interested in her instead. Armed with this evidence, Sarah and I confronted Madison directly at her house when Patricia was at work and Dad was traveling for business. We wanted to give her a chance to confess and retract her lies before we exposed her to the entire family. Madison initially tried to maintain her innocent act, but when presented with her own deleted text messages, she realized her deception had been discovered. "Fine, you caught me," Madison said with surprising defiance. "But I am not sorry for trying to protect James from making a mistake. You do not deserve someone like him, Lucy. You have always gotten everything easy while I had to work for scraps of attention and affection." Her confession was both relieving and heartbreaking. Madison admitted to orchestrating the entire plot because she could not tolerate seeing me happy and successful. She revealed years of accumulated resentment dating back to Dad's remarriage when she felt like I had stolen her place as the special child in the family. Instead of growing out of these childhood feelings, Madison had nurtured them into adult hatred and jealousy. "I will never take back what I said," Madison declared. "Even if you prove those photos were fake, I will tell everyone that you forced me to lie. Dad and Patricia will believe me because they always have. You cannot win this, Lucy." Madison's refusal to cooperate forced me to take more decisive action to protect my reputation and my relationship with James. I realized that trying to reason with someone consumed by jealousy and hatred was pointless. Madison had chosen to declare war on my happiness, so I needed to respond accordingly to defend myself and the people I loved. Sarah helped me compile all the evidence we had gathered into a comprehensive presentation that clearly demonstrated Madison's deception. We included the original and altered photos, with technical analysis showing the manipulation Madison's deleted text messages, revealing her motives, and planning financial records, showing her payments to photo editing services, and her recorded confession admitting to fabricating the entire story. I called Dad and requested a family meeting, telling him I had important information that would clear up the confusion about my career and reputation. He was reluctant to see me after Patricia's ultimatum, but I convinced him that he owed me at least one opportunity to present my side of the story before permanently damaging our relationship. James insisted on attending the meeting to show his support and to address his parents' concerns directly. We arranged to meet at Dad and Patricia's house on a Saturday afternoon when everyone could be present. Madison tried to avoid the meeting, claiming she had plans with friends, but Patricia insisted that she participate since she was the one who had brought forward the accusations. The atmosphere in the living room was tense and uncomfortable as everyone took their seats. Patricia sat protectively close to Madison, while Dad maintained his distance from me. James positioned himself beside me as a show of solidarity, and Sarah attended as my witness and technical expert who could explain the digital evidence. I began by acknowledging how shocking and disappointing the accusations must have been for my family to hear. I expressed understanding for their initial reaction, while also emphasizing how devastating it had been for me to have my character questioned by the people who were supposed to know me best. Then I systematically presented each piece of evidence that exposed Madison's deception. The altered photos were the most convincing proof because Sarah could demonstrate exactly how they had been manipulated using professional software. She showed the original images from my business trips alongside the doctored versions Madison had created, highlighting the technical modifications that changed innocent professional activities into something sinister and inappropriate. When I played the audio recording of Madison's confession, the room fell completely silent. Hearing Madison admit to fabricating evidence and deliberately trying to destroy my relationship with James left no doubt about who was telling the truth. Dad's face showed a mixture of shock, anger, and profound disappointment as he realized how thoroughly Madison had deceived him. Patricia initially tried to defend Madison by suggesting that jealousy was a normal sibling emotion that had gotten out of hand. But when confronted with the evidence of deliberate fraud and malicious intent, even she could not justify her daughter's behavior. The text messages revealed a level of premeditation and cruelty that went far beyond normal family rivalry. "Madison, how could you do this to your sister?" Dad asked, his voice heavy with disbelief and sadness. "How could you lie to us so convincingly about something so serious? Do you understand what you almost destroyed?" Madison refused to show any remorse or apologize for her actions. Instead, she doubled down on her resentment and blamed me for causing the family problems by being Dad's favorite child. She claimed that her actions were justified because I had never appreciated how good I had it, and that someone needed to humble me before I became too successful and happy. "Lucy has always been perfect in your eyes," Madison said bitterly. "Nothing I ever did was good enough because you were always comparing me to your precious daughter. I am tired of pretending to care about someone who took my place in this family." Her words revealed the depth of psychological damage that years of jealousy and resentment had caused. Madison had built her entire identity around competing with me and feeling victimized by my presence in the family. Rather than seeking help for these unhealthy feelings, she had chosen to act on them in the most destructive way possible. James addressed the room with calm dignity, explaining how Madison's lies had affected not only me, but also his family and our wedding plans. He made it clear that he had never doubted my integrity, but that Madison's actions had forced everyone to waste time and emotional energy dealing with fabricated drama instead of celebrating our upcoming marriage. "Madison, you have caused tremendous pain to someone I love, and you have tried to manipulate my family with lies," James said firmly. "I want you to understand that your actions have consequences. Lucy and I will not tolerate having someone in our lives who would go to such lengths to cause us harm." I then announced my decision to completely cut contact with Madison and remove her from all wedding-related activities. I explained that while I was willing to rebuild relationships with Dad and Patricia, I could not and would not maintain any connection with someone who had proven capable of such calculated cruelty. Madison was no longer welcome at my wedding, and I expected my family to respect that boundary. Dad and Patricia both apologized for believing Madison's lies and for treating me so harshly without giving me a fair chance to defend myself. Dad was particularly emotional as he realized how close he had come to permanently losing his relationship with me based on fabricated evidence. Patricia struggled more with accepting her daughter's behavior, but she acknowledged that Madison needed professional help to address her psychological issues. Madison left the house that afternoon without speaking to anyone, and I have not seen or heard from her since. Dad and Patricia respected my decision to exclude her from the wedding, though Patricia asked if I would consider reconciling with Madison in the future after she received therapy, and showed genuine remorse for her actions. The wedding took place 2 months later, exactly as originally planned, but without Madison's presence or participation. The absence of family drama allowed everyone to focus on celebrating James and me, beginning our new life together. Dad walked me down the aisle with tears of pride and gratitude in his eyes, grateful that he had not lost me permanently due to Madison's deception. James's parents publicly apologized for doubting me and welcomed me into their family with renewed warmth and acceptance. They had learned an important lesson about the danger of judging someone based on unverified accusations, no matter how convincing the evidence might appear. Our wedding day was everything we had dreamed it would be: beautiful, joyful, and surrounded by people who genuinely cared about our happiness. Patricia attended the wedding, but seemed subdued and sad throughout the celebration. She was struggling with the reality of her daughter's psychological problems and the knowledge that Madison had manipulated her into participating in such a cruel scheme. Dad made sure to spend extra time with me during the reception, trying to make up for the weeks when he had doubted my character and integrity. The months following our wedding were peaceful and healing for everyone except Madison. James and I settled into married life with a deeper appreciation for trust and communication in our relationship. The crisis had actually strengthened our bond because we had supported each other through an extremely difficult situation and emerged with our love intact. Dad and Patricia began attending family therapy to address the underlying issues that had allowed Madison's jealousy and resentment to grow unchecked for so many years. They realized that their tendency to excuse Madison's behavior and minimize her impact on family dynamics had enabled her to escalate her destructive actions without consequences. I learned valuable lessons about setting boundaries with toxic people, even when they are family members. Growing up, I had always believed that family relationships should be preserved at any cost, but Madison's betrayal taught me that some behavior is unforgivable and that protecting my own well-being sometimes requires cutting ties with harmful people. The experience also showed me the importance of having trustworthy friends like Sarah, who will stand by you during difficult times and help you fight for the truth. Without Sarah's technical expertise and unwavering support, I might never have been able to expose Madison's deception and clear my name with my family and James's parents. 6 months after the wedding, I received a letter from Madison apologizing for her actions and asking for forgiveness. She claimed to be receiving psychological counseling and said she understood how wrong her behavior had been. However, the apology felt calculated and insincere, focused more on making herself feel better than on acknowledging the real harm she had caused. I chose not to respond to Madison's letter because I had learned that forgiveness does not require reconciliation with someone who has proven themselves untrustworthy. Some relationships are too damaged to repair, and some people have forfeited their right to be part of your life through their choices and actions. Setting and maintaining firm boundaries was the healthiest decision for my marriage and my mental well-being. James and I celebrated our first wedding anniversary by taking a trip to Italy, something we had always planned to do together. As we walked through the streets of Rome, I reflected on how much stronger and wiser I had become through surviving Madison's betrayal. The experience had taught me to value the people who truly love and support me, while refusing to waste energy on those who seek to tear me down. Today, 3 years after Madison's deception was exposed, I can honestly say that cutting her out of my life was one of the best decisions I have ever made. My relationship with Dad has fully healed, and Patricia and I have developed a respectful friendship based on mutual understanding of what happened and why. James and I have built a marriage founded on trust, communication, and shared values that no amount of external drama can threaten. Sometimes people ask me if I miss having a sister, or if I regret not giving Madison another chance to be part of my family. The answer is simple You cannot miss something you never really had. Madison was never truly my sister in any meaningful sense because she spent our entire relationship plotting against my happiness and well-being. Real family members do not try to destroy each other's lives out of jealousy and spite. I have learned that protecting yourself from toxic people is not selfish or cruel. It is necessary for maintaining your mental health and building positive relationships with people who deserve your time and energy. Some bridges are meant to be burned when the other side leads only to pain and destruction. The most important lesson from this experience is that you have the right to choose who gets to be part of your life story. Blood relationships do not automatically entitle someone to access to your happiness, your achievements, or your special moments. When someone shows you through their actions that they wish you harm, believe them and respond accordingly. My advice to anyone dealing with similar family toxicity is this: document everything, trust your instincts, and do not be afraid to set firm boundaries with people who repeatedly choose to hurt you. Surround yourself with friends and chosen family members who celebrate your successes instead of resenting them. Life is too short to waste on people who would rather see you fail than work on their own happiness and growth. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to cut ties with a toxic family member to protect your own well-being? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about setting boundaries and choosing healthy relationships. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that it is okay to prioritize their own happiness over family expectations. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you make the right choices for your own life and relationships.